So, for today's episode, we have social media expert Katie Love here. She's the owner of Love Social Media, a management company made to take your social media to the next level. She's worked with well known people and brands like Bethany Frankel and 305 Fitness. So, welcome, Katie.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So, this is a great episode if you're an influencer or business stuck with figuring out how to grow on social media. So, we'll touch base on that. And then at the end, we'll talk about landing brand collabs in New York Fashion Week.
That sounds great.
So, what made you want to pursue a career in social media?
It's a great question because I started out a little bit in an unconventional way. My goal and my dream was always to be a TV reporter. And for 6 years, I did that. I worked for different NBC stations across the country. I covered natural disasters, high profile crimes, and politics. And around 2016, I started to see the way people were consuming media. And a lot of people were getting their news before the 5 and 6 o'clock local stations were able to produce it. And I started to grow my own Instagram following. I also had a lot of experience with, I'm just going to say it because this is a safe space, right? And it was
Absolutely.
sexism. Sexism was such a huge deterrent of me wanting to continue in the career. I found my partner, Aaron, who's my husband. We were both working alongside each other in the newsroom, and he would get called in for his storytelling and his writing, and I would get called in to the news director for my shade of lipstick, for wearing earrings that were too big, for wanting to see more form-fitted outfits on. And I
Wow.
just, yes, I couldn't take it anymore. I wanted to create a space for women to feel like they could not only grow in their career, but grow in their professional lives. It was very rare to see a woman in news who, was having a family and, being pregnant successfully. And a lot of times it was a red flag of you getting a promotion if you wanted to have kids or if you wanted to expand your family in that way. So in 2017, 2 weeks before I was supposed to start a new job as a news reporter, I quit and I haven't looked back since.
I'm glad that you were able to find what you were really loving and what fit for you.
Yeah, I have a lot of women who work for me now who've pivoted their careers, and what I say is, it's never too late to start again.
Absolutely. So I think a huge part of being successful on social media as an influencer or business owner is being able to keep your social media a positive place and avoid that feeling of being burnt out, because that can quickly happen if you're posting, and just on it for a certain amount of hours. It gets very overwhelming. Do you have any advice on how to keep your social media a positive place?
I think it has a lot to do with mindset. And when people, clients, or those who come to me with so many negative feelings about social, I remind them to follow people that make them happy, that bring them joy, that don't put them into this comparative space where they're constantly looking at what someone else is doing or working on and comparing themselves, and being true to what you like to post, what brings you joy, and the kind of content that makes you happy, because people can tell, your community can tell if you're forcing it. And so when we talk about burnout, I think I hate to use the word balance because as women, it's very hard to achieve,
It
but
is.
what it's so hard. And what I see happen is female entrepreneurs come to me and they say, I spent 3 months posting every single day, and I was really excited to do it. And then I got so burnt out that I stopped social for the next 6 months. And we don't want that to happen. We want it to be we don't want it to feel like a chore when it comes to social media. And if you can have a schedule for yourself where you can stay consistent, even if that means just showing up 3 times a week, it's more about the consistency of you showing up every week versus taking long hiatuses where you're doing a social media detox because you just got too overwhelmed by the platforms.
That's well said. Yeah, I definitely feel like I don't know if you've experienced that as well, but at one point you get to a place where you're posting so much, maybe you're not seeing results, and then you have to kind of stop and say, all right, I need to come up with some other plan because this isn't working. But it definitely can work. You can definitely, like we said, maybe find that balance or find that place of that happy medium.
Absolutely. And it's not always about the quantity. I mean, when we're talking about platforms like TikTok, I will say that the more you post, the more likely you are to grow. But there's less pressure over on the TikTok platform. You know, people, I find myself even not second guessing as much when I'm posting on TikTok because people are really showing a different side of themselves versus on Instagram where it's a little bit more curated and pretty and people are over analyzing the content that goes on their feed.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I mean, it seems like TikTok has taken off for that exact reason. I think people feel more comfortable being their authentic selves. And then we have Alix Earle who rose to the top. And I think that's because it just feels so authentic.
Alix Earle is a very interesting case study. And for those who maybe are still catching up, she's someone who's grown millions of followers in the span of just a few months. And so social media marketers like me are looking at her account and saying, okay, what was it that allowed her to grow so quickly? And a lot of it is the relatability. She's
Mm.
doing her makeup and, you know, what appears to be like a college, I don't want to say dorm room, but it's a smaller room. It doesn't look like this unattainable mansion where,
Right.
okay, I can't relate. She talks to the camera. She's herself. She's very open about having, you know, her breast augmentation and what she does to make her appearance, you know, another level. And I think that a lot of women appreciate that. We're like, okay, thank you for being upfront about what you've done, and you look great, and you're so positive about, you know, what you're doing. So I think even moms in their 30s like me, you know, enjoyed consuming her content.
Yeah. So do you think that creating strong content is the most important aspect if you're looking to grow your account? Should you really focus just on the content, or is there other things that you think might be more important?
So at my company, Love Social Media, we have three pillars that we say is the path towards success. The first is the strategy. So if you're just throwing content up there and you have no real plan of what the goal is or who you're trying to reach, a lot of times it can fall flat. So take a second, look at your target audience. What inspires them, makes them laugh? What's going to educate them or bring them value? And then start to produce the content. So we go from strategy, content, and then the third pillar is actually community. Because I like to say, in order to get the love, you've got to give the love. And it's not a one-way platform. You can't expect a ton of likes and comments if you're not being, you know, reciprocal in that way on the platform and engaging with other people. So yes, I think if you focus on your content and it's strong and it reflects the core pillars of your brand or what you want to communicate, the other things will follow, but you have to, you know, kind of, it's like a sandwich with the strategy and the community on the other ends, and then the content is the meat and the heart of it.
Got it. So maybe it's important to take a half hour, an hour to kind of scroll through and engage in posts that you like on your feed, or just make sure that you're responding to any comments that you're getting on your posts as well.
I do both of those things. You know, one of my tricks is to go back to a post that performed really well and reached the right people. And then I'll see who liked the content. And then I'll go back and give each of those people a couple of likes, maybe leave a genuine comment. And that builds the relationship with that person. And
Mm.
the next time they see my content, I think, will be more likely to leave me another comment because we're kind of going back and forth with it.
So if you're looking to grow followers faster, would you say that investing in social media ads or giveaways could be something that helps that? Or should you really just focus on what you just mentioned about creating quality posts and, you know, creating that community and engagement?
It's a really tricky question because we certainly have brands who come to us and they want really rapid growth. They're a new
Mm.
startup, they want to get in front of people, and they don't necessarily have the years that it's taken me personally to build over 30,000 followers, and they
Right.
want it to happen quicker. So when I think the content is the core. You have to have good content, but there are ways to push it along. Paid ads are, especially on TikTok, it can really help accelerate your growth, accelerate views. If you're boosting your content over on Instagram, if you're an individual, if a business is coming to me, I'm going to say, okay, we need a strategic plan. We're going to use Business Manager over on Facebook where we can get really granular into the target audience. We can target, you know, a mom in her 40s who shops at Lululemon, who, you know, visited the Gap recently. It gets, I say it gets a little creepy, but it's very helpful when it comes to pushing your product out there. As far as giveaways, I know that the reaction to them has been somewhat split. And I think that if you participate in a giveaway that is part of your core audience, so if Kylie Jenner holding a Louis Vuitton bag is not going to reach your core audience, and probably that giveaway is not for you.
No.
But if you're doing more of a brand collab, so let's say you're a business that sells skincare and you want to work with another business who has a jade roller, because it's not necessarily a competitor, but it's a like-minded brand, and you could then benefit off of each other's audiences. So doing, you know, a brand reel or brand giveaway, I think we've seen that be really successful.
Yeah, and I can speak on my experience as an influencer as well. I know with the brand collabs that I've had where we've done giveaways, I'll notice some follows, but then I also notice some of those people unfollowing after because they really only came for the giveaway. But then with ads, I have worked with a few brands who want to further promote my posts because they wanted it promoted on the influencer page versus their page. And I did notice more followers who stayed and were genuine and seemed more interested with the ads versus the giveaways.
I think that's a really interesting tactic that social media marketers are using. So if you're an influencer and you're listening, what you're describing is on the brand side called whitelisting. And
Okay.
so, yes, so what we've seen, because I work with, you know, over 30 different brands who often are contracting influencers like you, so I'm on the other side,
Right.
is that when we have a regular paid ad and it's coming from the business, the conversion is not as high as putting the ad dollars towards the influencer that you like, know, and trust. So when
Right.
you're scrolling in your feed and we see your face versus just a product photo, you know, your followers might be more likely to invest in that product. So as an influencer, you should know that that's a huge leveraging point when it comes to negotiating with brands on your rates.
So you're saying that negotiating in terms of if they're wanting to further promote your ad, your rate should be higher.
Definitely.
Okay.
So you can have a base price for the amount of content that you're producing and you're posting. But then if they come back and say, we'd like to test your ads or test your content and ads for whitelisting, you can do a couple things. You can say, well, it's a flat rate of a couple $100s, or we've had influencers say they want 5% of whatever the ad spend is. And the way that that benefits you is if your ad is working and you're getting people to buy the product, they're going to put more and more ad dollars towards it. So as the influencer, you want to get a piece of that conversion because you're ultimately helping them sell. So if they put in $10,000 towards the ads and you get 5%, you know, it's going to end up being more than just giving a flat fee.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, that's definitely good to know. It's something that I've thought about as well, because, you know, like I said, I do have that experience that some of my posts were further promoted, and I always wonder, oh, how much more is appropriate to charge for that? I think that's something a lot of influencers think about and have thought about. So that's definitely helpful to hear. And so do you think that there is a certain amount of time someone should look to post per week on the different platforms, or is it really more of sharing strong content versus just getting something random out there?
I think strong content is definitely, the most important ingredient. And it depends on your goals. If you are saying, I really want to aggressively grow in 2023, I will say probably the more content you post, the more likely you are to get more followers. But it shouldn't be at the expense of just putting out content that's not, you know,
Hmm.
not not strong. If you feel like you can commit to posting and posting good quality content, I think that posting 4 to 5 times a week can be really beneficial. But now with video marketing, your reels can have a lot longer lifespan. So if you post something, I mean, I've had like a week will go by and then all of a sudden the post starts performing well. So, you have to think about that too.
And do you think it's necessary to be on every single like different social media platform? Like some people are more heavy on Instagram versus TikTok. I know with my experience, sometimes I'll post the same video on Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok, and it'll always be different as to where it gets more views or more engagement.
So my advice on this is if you've already created the content, why not put it out on all the platforms? And
Right.
exactly like you said, it might perform better on one platform versus another. I don't think you have to go 110% on every single platform, but cross promoting your content can be really helpful. And then also just diversifying your where your strengths are. So if you are an influencer, you can also say that you have a following on multiple platforms versus just one, and then you can drive up the value.
Yeah, that's important as well. And then I also think there's always different social media platforms, like TikTok is now so popular. So it's definitely something that you want to take advantage of while you can, while so many creators are growing so quickly on there. And so
Absolutely.
in the influencer community, engagement pods are pretty popular, but there's also been a question of if it actually can hurt your accounts. So for people who don't know, engagement pods are when there'll be a group message on Instagram or Telegram, and a lot of influencers will come together and share when they post it, and then we'll all comment and like on each other's posts. So do you think that can be more hurtful to an account, that you should strive for more organic engagement?
I don't think it is necessarily hurtful because unless you're acting in a way that Instagram finds to be spammy. So if you're going to all 10 people in that pod and leaving the same comment on all of them, then Instagram's going to have a red flag of, okay, what's going on here? But if you're leaving all of them genuine comments, I don't think that it's going to hinder your account. The only thing I will say is we have a really large brand that we work with now, and their head of influencer marketing recently said to me, oh, it was obvious this influencer's in an engagement pod
Mm.
because it's always the same group of women that are commenting on all her posts.
Right.
So I will say on the brand side, they're getting a lot more savvy to knowing that that's what's going on. So we might not use that influencer because yes, we can see that she has an average of 50 comments per post, but they're from the same people, so it's not really genuine.
Yeah, I think that I can see how brands are definitely looking more into accounts, because there's a lot going on with people being able to buy a following and et cetera. So they're definitely doing their research.
Yes. So now we have software. So Love Social Media, we pay for a software that allows us to really vet influencers. So
Mm,
it'll show the percentage of bots that they have. It'll show their engagement rate, which is really important because if someone has 50,000 followers and is only getting 10 to 20 likes per post, that's going to be a red flag to us that either the following is not authentic or is no longer engaged with the kind of content that they're promoting. And
right.
sometimes that happens when an account shifts. So like even my personal account, I had to really train and shift my audience because they used to come to me for news, and now it's a lot different where I'm posting about my daughter and about growing my business. So sometimes you see the shift and that can hurt your engagement.
Right.
But it's just something to think about.
And so with hashtags, do you think that there's a certain amount you should use per post, or will using like 30 hashtags every post, will that get you shadow banned, or is that not true?
Wow. So you wouldn't believe that hashtags would be such a debated and heated conversation in the social media community. It really is. So I will say that for years and years, my mantra was, if Instagram allows you 30 hashtags, why would we not use all 30? It's 30 different ways to potentially have an opportunity to reach people.
Okay.
However, in 2022, we had the creator account, which is run by Instagram, say really only 5 to 7 hashtags, or I think they even said 3 to 5 are what's appropriate. And then we have gurus who are saying don't even use hashtags because they don't do anything. So my answer is that when I look at my account and I look at the insights, you can see on static images or carousels how many people came from your hashtags. So if you're seeing that 2,000 people came from hashtags and that's how they found you, then to me, hashtags are still a viable source of how to gain more traction. I do think we can be a little bit more tailored. So instead of posting 30 hashtags, maybe consider posting 8 to 10 that are really focused in on your content and making sure that they're changed. I think that Instagram and TikTok are looking at a lot more than hashtags. They're kind of looking at keywords. So they're crawling your video to see what keywords you have, and they're crawling the cover slide on your TikTok. And so it's not just hashtags that are going to have an impact. It's the words that you're using in the captions and even on the video.
Got it. And also, I mean, I feel like this might be an answer that no one really has, but I've noticed on my page, like there'll be some times when I use hashtags and it performs so well. It helps to drive my posts thousands more. And then there'll be times where I use hashtags and then I get really nothing from it. So would you say, I mean, is that an answer that you that
I don't think hashtags will ever hurt you is the answer. So hashtags may sometimes really help make generate a post and get a lot of interest in it, but I don't think it's ever going to deter you in the algorithm.
Right.
And when you talked about being shadow banned, it's a word that the community has created. Instagram never uses that word, but really what it means is that you have done an action on Instagram or TikTok that the algorithm deems as spammy or goes against their guidelines. And so usually you're going to see a flag. Like now you can check the integrity of your Instagram account and see if you have any strikes against you. Same thing for TikTok. It can be, it's less likely that it's going to be a hashtag that does that and more about the kind of content that you posted.
Got it. And is there any way to know, like, so the posts where I'm using hashtags that it's helping and it's reaching more, how do I get that same effect with the hashtags? Is it just kind of like, you don't really know, you're just kind of using the best hashtags and you're seeing how the algorithm takes your posts and the hashtags together?
Yes, I mean, you want to make sure that you're not using the same hashtags for every post, that you're customizing them based on the content. But sometimes it is a luck of the draw of whether you get picked up in the Explorer page or not. I think it's a mix of hashtags, captions, and then using hook writing. So it either in your reel or in your caption that gets people to stay on your content longer.
Got it. And so an observation I've had, I feel like whenever I post reels, it outperforms like a regular photo or carousel post by so much. And I get more followers from posting reels than posting regular like photos or carousel. So would you say you've seen that on your end as well? It just feels like reels have really taken over on Instagram.
Yes, it's almost impossible to get a static image to perform as well as video. But I will say that Adam Ozeri, who's the head of Instagram, just in the last week went on Instagram stories and said that, you know what, guys, I think we overcorrected. We really wanted to lean into video, but we hear your concerns and we're going to make it more balanced between photos and videos. So hopefully in the next few months, you see that your static content actually, starts to perform better.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And then do you have
Kylie Jenner said, let's make Instagram again. And part of that was like that photos are not performing as well. So it's frustrating.
Yes. I mean, for me, I'm sure you noticed as well, it was just I couldn't believe the difference in posting a reel versus an in-feed photo.
I know.
And then
I know.
do you have any tips for finding the right reels music? I know for me, I'll try to find, I'll look and see what songs are currently viral, or I'll save songs that I like when I'm scrolling through Instagram.
Yeah, so number one is looking for that arrow pointing up on the left-hand side. That's how you know it's trending. And number two is trying to pick a song we tend to pick them that have less than 10,000 uses, because
Okay.
if it has 100,000, it's just like a hashtag. It'll be hard to find your content. But if you're getting in there using the audio before it really blows up, then you're more likely to be seen.
Okay, cool. That's good to know as well. So now I figured that we can get into, I'll share my process for getting paid and gifted collabs, and then you have experience as well hiring influencers. So I figured you can just share your advice as I go along. Okay, so I feel like the first part of getting paid or gifted collabs is really when to reach out to brands. For me, I'd say I started even with under 10,000 followers. And I really just looked at where my Instagram was. If you kind of have a clear message of if you're a fashion influencer or beauty or travel, once you kind of have your page together and it has a clear message, then I feel like, even with a few thousand followers, you're ready to start reaching out, right?
Definitely. It's becoming less and less about your followers and more about your community being engaged.
Right. And like we said, on your end as well, it's so important when you look at engagement. And I know for me, when brands reach out, I'll send a screenshot of the analytics of my page, or they'll request viewing your analytics. So it's definitely something that's really important right now.
The screenshots are really important. And we found on the brand side that we're asking more and more for story views, actually, and story stats.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. As a brand, I know that that's a big investment for them. So you definitely want to make sure that you're finding the right influencers.
Exactly.
Right. So then step two, I would say, is really reaching out to brands. And then also there's third-party sites that you can use. The ones that I use that connect brands with influencers are Activate, Aspire IQ, and Tribe. So those are all apps and websites that, like I said, they list out brand collaborations and you can apply for them. And then, so there's three ways. I think we went over that first one. Secondly, there's an agency that I work with in New York that will send opportunities. And then you can reach out to brands as well. And do you have any experience when you look for influencers? Have you used any of those sites that I had mentioned, or no?
We haven't, but brands will pay to get onto those sites, so their content briefs are on there. We're usually selecting the influencers ourselves and sending DMs. But I think that those three ways are exactly how people can get collabs. We've also had people who find, the brand influencer marketing email through LinkedIn. So that's another way to, possibly get in with your dream, collab and your dream brand.
Right. And so a few tips for reaching out to brands, and I'm sure Katie might have some advice on this as well. So I would say really just send like a detailed message. I'll take the time to go on the brand's website and see I'm a fashion blogger, so what product I like, whether it be an article of clothing or an accessory, and I'll really just describe how I plan to use it in the post and what kind of posts I plan to create. I think that kind of helps to give like a visual idea. And then in terms of media kit and rates, I usually send that in the second email, because I'm sure with every brand, sometimes you'll change your rate. or every brand has a different budget that they're working with.
Yes, I think the biggest offense is that when we get an email from an influencer and it's clearly a copy paste. And so I do think that taking that extra step to really identify why you think you would be a good fit is really important.
Absolutely. And so a few other ways that you can earn on Instagram, Reels Play, and then you can also go the affiliate route with LTK or Amazon. For me personally, I've seen more with LTK, and then I find that I'll get more attention to my page when I post on TikTok versus Instagram.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to earn right now, even as a UCG creator, which is a little bit different, getting products sent to you and, it's not necessarily about you posting on your page, but you creating the content for the brands to post.
Yes, that's something that I also have I've noticed as well. If that's a new trend right now with influencer work, a lot of brands are looking for that user-generated content. So that could be a good thing to add to your media kit as well if you're looking to earn.
Absolutely.
And then also there can be scam messages that I'm sure we've all had in our DMs. So definitely be aware of those. Sometimes brands will offer a discount code, and sometimes that is a part of their influencer campaign process, but definitely take the time to vet, look through their website and make sure it's a fit for you.
Yes, that's a really important note because I have had a lot of friends who send me screenshots. I actually just had one recently who said, "Oh, it looks like I got an email from Chanel and they want to do a brand collab." And I felt so bad bursting her bubble. But the easiest way to tell if you're getting scammed is look at when you're looking at the email, look at what comes after the @ sign. And if it's not at Chanel.com or at Instagram.com, it's likely a scammer because a lot of times you'll see it's just at Gmail or it's some weird email that you get so excited to see the word Chanel brand collab that you don't even look to see, where the email came from.
And that's funny you mentioned that because I actually just got an email from what I thought was Fashion Nova. I got so excited in the subject line, Fashion Nova Club. Then I click on it and I see it's a Gmail account. And I was like, well, that's
it's such a letdown.
It is. But it happens to all of us. So just know,
it does.
Yeah, just make sure that when it is a scam though, because that can be tricky. I mean, you'd be surprised the lengths that some of these people go to, and it really looks like it's a real collab.
I know, it's so frustrating. Or a lot of people fall for the "we'll verify you" scam, and it's just the worst.
There was someone that I just interviewed last week, Erin Brady, who was Miss USA 2013. She hadn't been verified yet, and so I let her know, just like add some articles that you've been featured in, because I believe to be verified, they really want to see that you've been featured in the news and that they can confirm that that's your account. And so she did that and she was verified the next day. So I guess for any influencers watching, if you have any news features, I believe that helps you get verified. So just submit those articles.
Yeah, so you can apply to be verified right on your Instagram. You're not going to get some weird email asking for your password. It's just going to happen automatically. And a lot of it is dependent, not necessarily on your following, but the kind of clout and news articles that you have surrounding you.
Right. So lastly, I did just want to quickly explain my process of how you can get invited to New York Fashion Week as a brand or influencer with that around the corner. So basically it's super simple. You just go to newyorkfashionweek.com/press, and they'll have an email that you can reach out to and ask for the email list of the PR agencies for all the brands that are showcasing for that season. And you'll just send an email sharing your social media pages and just saying, in exchange for 2 tickets to your show, I can post on this platform. And again, like Katie and I said, it helps to be super descriptive. Don't send the same email to everyone, really take the time to curate each email. And yeah, so that's it. Some things to note. You will get, or at least in my experience, there are a lot of rejections that come before you are accepted into any of the shows. And then usually with the shows I am accepted into, I won't hear from them until just a few days before the show. So it really depends on where you are as an influencer. For me, I'm kind of invited more. I'm at the end of the list, which is okay, but
Hey,
so
at least you're invited. That's pretty cool.
and like everything, like all processes, there's a lot of no's to get to yes. So
I love that. That's such a great tip because it's so fun to see everyone's content from New York Fashion Week. And as an influencer, even if you're not getting paid, just the opportunity to create that kind of content and go to the show is really huge.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it definitely is fun. I did want to share that. I know some people do reach out to me every season asking how, and you'd be surprised, even if you have only a few thousand followers, I would say to just go for it and you never know what could happen. So,
I love that.
and so thank you to our guest, Katie, for coming on. Do you have any last bits of advice that you'd like to share with us?
Sure. I think if you want to continue the conversation, you can follow me over at Katie Love Social or
Yes.
at our brand page, which is at Love Your Social Media, which is my social media agency. We handle social media marketing, influencer marketing, and paid ads. And I'd love to say hi to you.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Katie. This advice has been so helpful. And guys, if you have any other questions or would like to work with Katie, reach out to her. She's awesome. I've been following her for a while and she's always giving great advice. So very knowledgeable in this subject.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.